myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly...
Hey guys, Coach Dan here. I'm a exercise and sports scientist. I'm a coach and personal trainer for 10 plus years and an overall gym enthusiast. And today I'm going to go through my push workout. I am currently 6 weeks into a fat loss phase. Things are going well, steps are going up, food's going down, fatigue is kicking in. But again, we're going to go for about 10 weeks of this fat loss phase. So we've got about 4 weeks remaining. So all is going well. I think I started this fat loss range phase at around 88 kgs and we're down to about 82.3 with the first couple coming off quite quickly because that was after a cruise. And yeah, now things are getting into the thick of it. It's challenging at some stage, but this week overall things are going well. Workouts are going well. Morale is high. So we continue on with it for another 4 weeks. Shouldn't be too much drama, and we just got to do what we got to do. If we got to, take away some food to keep it going, we got to increase steps to keep it going. We just got to get that done, right? So, okay, let's go through the specifics of the push workout for today. So in today's workout, so push meaning we're going chest, shoulders, and triceps basically as a combination. We're going to start off with the incline cambered bar bench press. So the cambered bar being the bar with the dint in it, allowing a nice range of motion or an increased range of motion and a big stretch in the chest. Then we are going a nice horizontal chest press machine, which kind of has this upward sort of path, which again, leaning more towards the upper pec, which is kind of more on my focus. That one also gets a really solid range of motion, so that's good. Then we've got our fly variation using the cable machine that we added in last week. So we're seated at the cable machine, angle slightly up, again moving in towards the upper pec kind of motion. Then we hit the shoulders. We're going on the seated dumbbell lateral raise as our current variation, slight lean back on that. Pretty good so far. Only doing that a couple of weeks, so we're happy with that. Followed up after that, we've been doing a Smith machine shoulder press, but I am considering one of the pin-loaded shoulder press machines here. I've had a feel with it. I've had a play with it. It feels quite good. So that might be a substitute we make today. We shall see, depending on... I'll probably give that a try today, I'd say. We'll give that a go and see how it compares to the Smith machine. And then we finish off with the classic straight bar tricep push down. So that one's going pretty well. That's one I've added in recently and it feels good and the progress is there, so we're happy. So that'll be the push workout today. Again, being in a fat loss phase, some things that are challenging are things like progress is pretty tough. Energy levels aren't the highest they ever are, but again, the main priority now is the fat loss component with the goal of, yes, holding on to performance, holding on to as much muscle as possible, but fat loss is the goal. So we do that and then we try and keep as much muscle and as much performance as possible throughout the whole phase, and that would indicate that we're keeping hard-earned muscle over months and months and months, and that's how she rolls. And then we'll come out the back end of this and we'll probably look to go through another weight gain phase or muscle gain phase and then go from there. All right, busy day on the cards. Let's get in, get it done and smash it out. Here we go. Alright, first up we have the incline cambered bar bench press. So as mentioned in the intro, the cambered bar is this bar with this dint in it. And what the dint does is allows for a larger range of motion. So as I have my hands on this section of the bar, this is going to be where my chest is. It'll allow to sink me deeper past than a standard bar would, getting a bigger stretch and potentially more muscle growth. So I really like this one. There is it's not good for the ego. I'm not generally really good at pressing anyway, and this makes you weaker because you have to do more work. But again, the goal is not necessarily just to lift the most amount of weight as possible, it's to grow muscle. And if we can grow more muscle or equal muscle with less weight, ultimately in the end game, that's going to be good because you put less strain on your body, less stress on your body for more outcome. So, you know, although it's bad for the ego, it's good for, you know, hopefully good for muscle growth. So that's that as far as, you know, rationale behind this. But all your cues for bench pressing are the same. So as we set up, set your hand position. I'm going just outside of this dent, but you could go wider if you want as well. These bars aren't everywhere, but if you do get a chance or you do ever get an opportunity to try one, definitely do so. Control the down phase, a couple of seconds or at least under control, nice and deep, drive up. So a incline press, basically the concept is to work a higher portion of your pec. You think if I'm inclining my body essentially this way, which we are doing on an incline, but the weight keeps coming down against gravity and I keep inclining, where it kind of targets is going to get higher and higher, and that's the idea. Bit more upper pec or the high part of the pec and the clavicular pec potentially, which kind of goes into your clavicle. That's the idea, which is a focus for me. So I do a fair amount of stuff on the incline, flies going up as well, things like that to kind of see if we can't bring that up. All right, actually, I made a mistake last week and went a heavier jump than I was expecting, than I was meaning to, should I say. So I'm gonna try that again because it went pretty well. All right, let's hit it. All right, next up we have the horizontal chest press variation. This is a pin loaded one now. This is quite a good machine. Allows a really nice large range of motion. Slight arc up again, which suits my preference just fine. So we've come from an incline cambered bar bench press. So on a pretty substantial incline, maybe 30 to 40 degrees-ish. And now we're going to this horizontal. So we're just kind of ticking boxes of different parts of the chest potentially. So this being more of a horizontal kind of movement, that being more of a incline or upper pec kind of movement is the idea. I've got these fat grips on here. That's nothing other than I like the feel of them. It's not an absolute must. It's fine without. You know it's a good chest press or a good range of motion chest press when you have the foot pedal that can kind of push away, allow you to get your hand position set. We let it off. Big stretch as large as your flexibility allows. Control for about 1 or 2 seconds. Stretch, drive forward. Now I think the thing to keep in mind with chest press, bench presses, etc. is what we're trying to train, which is the pec. And if you think about the job of the pec, it's essentially a couple of different things, but ultimately pulling this in towards here or up towards the collarbone or down towards that. So when I'm doing a movement like this, we're not simply thinking about pushing out, but almost pushing that in or pulling the arm in towards the center to make sure we get that feel for the pec as much as possible. All right, let's load them up and let's get it going. Come on. next up we have our fly variation. So we're set up in the small cable machine, functional trainer, whatever you want to call this. We've got a utility bench or a incline bench completely upright, either one is fine. And what we're trying to do here is target more towards the upper pec with our fly. So if you think about a standard cable fly, machine fly, or dumbbell fly, whatever that's kind of coming directly horizontally, it's coming this direction, right? Now what that probably means is that the fibers kind of in towards the center of the chest are probably the most, it's more inclined to work towards those. However, like some stuff is saying that when you're, again, in the flat position, it works all of the pec. When you start to go to like the incline stuff, it's not that it's more effective for the upper pec, it's just less effective for the lower pec. So you get more working towards there. So it's really just the preference. So anyway, all that is to say, we're coming from a position of low to a position of high. So I went through last week when first introducing this exercise, kind of how to kind of know what height to set that at. And basically what it is kind of feeling out what arm path kind of feels like it's working that upper pec the best. So if you've got your collarbone, you go to the inner third and you kind of palpate just below that. That's kind of where the clavicular pec is attaching. Now, if I do something like this, I feel nothing for it because that's probably anterior delt mostly. But as I start to come in towards the head, now I'll start to feel that kind of get fired up a little bit more, and then kind of maybe less as we start to go down here. So you want to kind of feel that spot that feels like it's the most effective. And I know for me, it's kind of going through this arm path. Boom. So what do I want? To set the cable at exactly the height that arm path is going through. So when I go to do this movement, it's directly opposing that. So I've already set that last week. I figured out that for this cable machine's height through, wrote it down in my notes. So initially that might be a little bit difficult to kind of get a handle on, but once you've got it in your notes, boom, I just set it up. The other thing is that we want this bench far enough away that we go through a good range of motion. So if I was way back there, it would run into the cable machine each time, but I've already set that up off camera. So what I'll do is I'll reach over, get the handle set, get into position, kind of identify where that cable height is set. And then again, we're going directly against that, coming in that kind of upward path. Felt good last week, so we carry on with that. This is all in the moderate rep range. I think, if this was too heavy, again, wrestling this into position might get a little bit difficult. So the kind of moderate 10 to 15 rep range, I think, is best. All right, let's get it going. All right, seated. Chest work completed. Now we move on to shoulder components. So this is going to be a seated dumbbell lateral raise. So I initially had this going at a bit of an incline. Didn't feel very good. Cranked up the incline a bit and felt good to me. So that's what we're going to go with. Essentially, this is just going to become a seated dumbbell lateral raise at this angle. Seated, not a bad strategy to employ just because it stops any cheating or moving your body too much and stuff like that. I think that's probably one of the main benefits of it. It means you'll lift less weight, but again, if the stimulus is as good with less weight, often that's not a bad thing, although that's, again, not good for our egos and stuff like that. That would indicate that there's less strain on the body for the same or more stimulus. So yeah, you stand up and you do this swinging around and stuff like that, probably you'll get equal growth is my guess, but you might lack, well, not lack, you have to lift a heavier weight, and that's like, maybe you're cool with that, but that heavy weight could potentially eventually lead to strain or injury if we do it with good form and lighter weight and we get the same stimulus, although it doesn't feel as good to lift lighter weights. The weights will go up with time. essentially it'll be as effective with less strain on the system and the body. Might not matter for something like a dumbbell lateral raise, but then when you go to some heavier movements where you choose like the heaviest movement you could possibly do in a particular muscle group and go through a really short range or with really shitty technique versus, you know, a really large range and making that really good of a heavy movement. And although the large range will be lighter, it will get you more benefit in my mind. Well, again, less similar stimulus potentially for muscle growth, less fatigue. I feel like that was a massive waffle, so maybe ultimately if we summarize, we're getting more stimulus equal or more stimulus potentially for much less fatigue, and that's a win in everyone's books. So you get caught up in trying to lift heavier weights and whatnot, but again, it's not just about that. If we change our technique or shorten our range to lift that heavier weight, then essentially we're not necessarily getting better, we're just changing our technique to get there. All right, no more waffling. The seated dumbbell lateral raise, I'll kind of come out on a direct angle straight towards the camera, and almost, they call this like a scapular plane. It's almost, if this is directly out to the side and this is directly out to front, it's almost halfway between those two. So we're down here, raising out, down, raising out. Not too much to the dumbbell lateral raise. She's been around for ever, you know. This is just a seated version to keep your form strict and not allow you to swing around too much. So yeah, I'll do a pretty high rep range here. Aim for first set to be at 15 to 20, and as fatigue kicks in, they might drop off. But yeah, usually a little bit higher than some other movements. All right, let's get it started. All right, shoulder press variation of the day, or anterior delt exercise. We're substituting, at least for today, the Smith machine shoulder press, which we've been doing for a fairly long chunk of time. She's getting maybe not as effective as it, or at least the perception of effectiveness not as good as it once was. Progress is slow, which is pretty common across most things at the moment, but nonetheless, we're going to give this one a try because I've never tried this particular machine and it feels quite good in the overhand position, very customizable. So the good thing about this particular variation is that this can come this way and this way, so you can line it up, right? So that's quite good. You don't often see that this can go this way and this way. Seat can go up, like, so there's some good adjustments that can be made here that makes it really customizable and feel quite good. So I'm gonna do it today. And yeah, like I said, I'm gonna do it in the overhand position. So this grip, instead of this grip, the neutral grip, I do the neutral grip shoulder press plate loaded variation on my other upper body day. At the other gym that I train at, also the pin loaded one, so this is pin loaded, is not very good there. It's like one's a bit dinky, one's a bit lopsided and stuff like that. So give this one a go today. So far in my mucking around with it, it feels pretty good. They have a plate loaded shoulder press here as well, but I'm not a massive fan just because the resistance is a little bit quite hard, well, easy in the beginning, and then it gets really hard and then it gets easy again. So how the hinge works makes it, in my mind, not ideal for my goals. So overhand, I've lined this up such that my arm is going to be directly underneath the resistance, and we press. So again, if we think about anterior delt. Its job is to kind of pull the arm towards the head, right? Now, this kind of looks like, if you think about the arm part, this looks quite different to, similar to what the lateral raise was just doing. But one of the big differences is that my hands have now gone like this. And you think, oh, what does that matter? It matters because that kind of changes what is essentially doing the job, because it kind of puts the anterior delt more on top than when I'm here like this, which puts the lateral delt more on top, so more likely to help against the resistance. So we will work with this. We'll start it off in about 8 to 12 rep range so I can get familiar with it. Maybe eventually we'll do some heavier work, 6 to 8 and stuff like that. But for now, 8 to 12, I'll find a weight because I don't know what that will be. And then we'll be on. So far, so good. Performance is pretty tough at the moment. So like a lot of these lifts, especially the heavier sets. So when I do my heavier, 6 to 8 stuff, that seems to be really affected by this fat loss phase, but potentially a little bit more moderate stuff, 8 to 12, 12 to 15 kind of stuff, seems to be hanging in there a little bit better. So I wonder if that stuff's performance is hanging around and progressing in that more moderate rep range, should I do more of the work in that rep range? Or would that indicate that I still should do some work in the heavier rep ranges? So some thoughts worth pondering. I might think about that later today, dream about it tonight, see where we come to. Anyway, enough shit talk, let's shoulder press. Alright, capping things off with the tricep pushdown, just your conventional tricep pushdown for the triceps. So, been rocking this one maybe the last 4 to 6 weeks. Feels really effective. There might be suggestion that it would be more effective to train the triceps in overhead positions like this with the arm raised due to the stretch position of the long head of the tricep particularly. But nonetheless, I decided to start using this one about 4 weeks ago because I was doing an overhead version like that and getting a little bit of elbow discomfort, so I changed it up to this. It felt really effective, elbow pain's gone, and I've stuck with it. So that might potentially be a thing, or maybe, maybe that was just a overuse thing or whatever it might be. At a certain stage, will I go back to the other overhead versions? Almost certainly, they feel really good as well. I do skull crushers on the Smith machine. There's not one exercise or one way to do things. You can choose many different exercises. You can change them regularly, you can change them not regularly. You find the ones that you like and feel good for you, and you build them up over time, get stronger at them, and that's the game basically. So yeah, there really isn't, people go, oh, what's the best exercise for this? What should I do for this? What's the best? There's lots of different ways. You try a couple, see which one feels the best and suits you the best, and get stronger with that one and go to town, and maybe switch to the other one, and that feels really good as well. And then you've got 2 variations to work with across time, you know what I mean? We don't have to be obsessed with having the best this or the best that or whatever it might be. All right, anyway, the specifics of the pushdown, I'm going straight bar, but again, you'll see bars that have the V, you got the ropes, you got all these kinds of things. I just, again, threw this one in the mix and it felt good, so I've continued on. So we'll drag it down. Now, even though we don't raise our arm and get that long head of the tricep stretched out, we still want, or I would still suggest, getting as much elbow flexion as possible. So like, that's essentially your forearm getting onto your bicep into that kind of position there. So we can get the best stretch we can. I would say nice and close to this machine, not because it'll come away too far and then be pulling it in. Nice and close. And then you're pushing directly again against the resistance at the beginning. All right, so yeah, good weight on this one as well, so we'll build that up. I have been using the gym pin that I've been borrowing off someone, which again allows us to add weight to the weight stack. And if I'm allowed to borrow it again, I think I will be doing that again. All right, let's get it. All right, that's a wrap on the workout, guys. Good push workout. The challenging thing about this is, just fighting for that performance. Feeling good, like all the exercises feel pretty effective. But performance is just really hard to come by. So we keep trying, even a rep here and there. But something interesting is that we, a more moderate rep range is sort of easy to progress. So like 8 to 15 in that kind of bracket, that seems a bit more, easy to progress. Whereas doing something in the lower rep range, 5 to 8, something like that, just feels like it's not going forward so well, or even going backwards. So I wonder if that's a common thing, or if anyone else has found that. Let me know. If that's evidence-based, I don't know. If that's something that needs to be researched or something like that. But specifically in a deficit, just finding the heavier stuff harder to get better at. Well, there you go. Something interesting to kind of look at, and potentially does that mean I move more of the stuff while on a cut towards that more moderate range? Potentially. All right, we got lower body tomorrow. Still working around my adductor hamstring kind of thingy, and that has improved, but I don't know if I'll be able to do too much with it yet. So potentially considering like I haven't been able to, on that day as a leg press, maybe a controlled range of motion belt squat or leg press or something like that, just so the deep stuff, I still do feel it when I go quite deep in my stuff, lots of hip flexion, lots of knee flexion. So maybe just limit the range, maybe do that on a belt squat or something like that. But I'll have a look at that tomorrow when I play around with it, and then we'll go from there. As always, guys, if you're liking the stuff, make sure to hit the subscribe up here. If you want to watch something else, check out this video. And as always, it's about progress over perfection. Coach Dan, signing off.